Whenever you're ready.
Ready? Okay. My name is Heironimus, and as I said earlier, I grew up in Riverview Gardens through the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and logged a lot of miles on Riverview Drive going into Baden up there in North St. Louis, off in Broadway there, and as well as the Chain of Rocks Bridge going over for whatever reason. And over the years, I finally kind of left the area in the 60s and went out to Kansas and then came back to Cuba in 79. But we would come in once a year and so forth. But anyway, in those earlier years, like I said, went down Riverview Drive a lot. And, you know, and he mentioned that Texaco station there and this curve right out here. There was more than one accident on this curve. And I'll tell you what, I really thank the Lord to this day. I have a very visual memory that I almost was one of them, all right? And going around that turn too fast like some guys did. And I actually slid some, and fortunately I didn't hit the curb like I know one guy did do. And there were like 3 kids, teenagers, burned up in a Ford coupe right there on that curve back in like 59, all right? And late at night, and we just happened to come by there. I built and drove race cars back in the 50s and 60s, and in fact, one of our sponsors for a while in 58, 59, long in there, had a shop, Yates Auto Repair, that was right up next to the Standard station that was on the corner. You go up Riverview Drive to Broadway, and right there on the immediate left corner was a Standard station, Kinstra's I think it was. But anyway, Yates Auto Repair was next to him, and he was one of our sponsors, and we worked on a race car there, and sometimes we'd run down Riverview Drive at night to kind of test it out a little bit. And I'm talking about some fast cars, okay, with no rules, whatever. We use alky for fuel and so forth. And if you know anything about that, you know that it was pretty fast even in those days. But anyway, when we came home from Springfield one night racing up there, and lo and behold, we came across that wreck that was there. But it wasn't the only wreck that happened, unfortunately, on that turn there. But anyway, the bypass, again, was what I thought is old 66, and put a lot of miles on that too, as well as kind of heading down southwest on 66. We had relatives down in that area and so on. But you know, even as kids, we would go into Baden. I mean, Friday nights in Baden at the Baden Show, which hasn't been there now for many, many years. But anyway, was just loaded with kids that would come from the county area, and we'd ride the bus in and go in there and whatever and back out. Now Bell Fountain Road right up there, which is a continuation of Broadway, it heads on out north and goes way up north into Spanish Lake and on beyond. But anyway, it also runs into Chambers Road, which intersects there, and you can come that way, and then Chambers Road comes around and runs into Riverview Drive out here just a couple of miles. And so all of those were ways in which you could go into Baden. A lot of my bicycling, we used to bicycle into Baden. Also, mostly Bell Fountain Road more than Riverview Drive, because that was a little safer that way and whatever. But I don't know. I hadn't really thought about what I would say. I didn't realize I was going to be saying it anyway. Does anyone have any questions about anything I said?
They want to know about your ticket.
Oh, the ticket. Yeah, well, that was in 1954, and my wife and I went to the Lake of the Ozarks for our honeymoon, and we went to Highway. We were in Riverview here, but let's see, we went out and went around 66 and went down and took Highway 50 and over through Union and so on. Of course, that's the days when 66 went through Pacific and all that, you know, and they had a lot of 3-lane in Franklin County at least. But anyway, we went up to Lake of the Ozarks, and we were coming home from the honeymoon. It was in the evening time. Well, in fact, it was after dark, and somewhere in Franklin County on a 3-lane. Now, the 3-lane was you had that middle lane, and if you're on an open stretch, whoever could bluff out the other guy, you could pass on the middle lane, see? But when you go over the hill, they did have yellow lines saying you should stay off of it on this hill or you've got on the other hill. Well, anyway, we were coming down this hill, and there were no speed limits on in those days, all right? So most of us, or a lot of us, ran 80, 90, and 100 wherever we went. And so I'm probably running 80 or so, which was typical at that time. And I'm coming down on this big flatbed truck, and he was going pretty slow. So, you know, I pull out to pass around him, and lo and behold, right in front of him, though, was a state trooper, see, which really wouldn't have made any difference because, again, I wasn't speeding in the technical sense, but we came to this long grade, see, and we came down and started up that grade. When my headlights went up that grade, now it's a long hill. It was nighttime. You could see there was no cars coming from anywhere, but I saw the yellow line. It went against me. Well, what was I going to do? I'm doing like 80 or better, and these guys are probably doing 40, you know, and they're pretty close together anyway. So I just went on, and I probably caught about 5 foot. I didn't want to cut the police car off to get in there, you know. But anyway, I caught about 5 foot of that yellow line, and that dirty rat gave me a ticket. I mean, I no sooner than I did that, pull in front of him, went the siren, you know. So, oh no. So I pull over. Anyway, and so I go back there, you know. Well, I'm only 20 years old, and I knew I didn't want to get into much arguing with this trooper, but I went back, and so I just kind of sat there, but I had to ask him. I had to see if he could answer me with a straight face, all right? And I said, well, sir, tell me, what was I supposed to do? There's nobody coming. I said, you could clearly see it. And I said, I was probably going 40 miles an hour faster than you were. What was I supposed to do? He said, you should have put on your brakes and got in behind me. Whoa. Now, I didn't say, sir, that's a stupid answer, but I was thinking it, all right? But anyway, he gave me the ticket. He had any trouble giving me the ticket. But the trouble was, in those days, you couldn't send them in. So I had to take off a day of work and come down to Union, Missouri at Franklin County, and to me that was country in those days. Living, I mean, I thought of myself as a city boy even though I was out in Riverview, but I identified kind of like that. But anyway, so I had to go down there and take off and go down and appear in court and pay my ticket. I don't remember what it cost me, but anyway, so that was the experience on that. Now, so I didn't do anything crazy, except I didn't put on my brakes and get in behind the other guy. Well, anyway, so, but you know, things happen when you're on your honeymoon. In fact, when we were going up there, we went into Jeff City, see, on 50. Well, I was going to take 54 out, and I'd never been in Jeff City before. And so I end up, instead of going left, I thought I had the thing memorized, so I didn't get the map out. So instead of going left on 54 and going over the lake, I went right on 54 and went out across the river, heading, of course, the wrong direction. But at least I know what year they built that bridge, which is now the old bridge going out of Jeff City towards Columbia, was 1954, because they were working on that one, and we went across on the old bridge. But then, as it turns out, I went back in my old trade of the ironworkers in 89 and worked from 89 to 99. I end up working on the other bridge that is now the newer bridge that is probably in about the approximate location of when the old one was on. And I worked on that most of the way across the river as they built that one out there. But so we went the wrong direction. So I went 50 miles before I finally figured it out. Went back, and then we went, so and all that. But I mean, I was on my honeymoon. I wasn't in any hurry anyway, except I wanted to get to the motel. Well, nevertheless, so we finally did get there. But, and I was going to spin. See, I had read about the coral courts. Now, in those days, I think it had a good reputation, all right? Because there's a big write-up in the Post paper about the coral courts and how great it was. And they had a honeymoon suite and all of that kind of stuff. And so I thought, man, maybe we ought to go spend a honeymoon there, see? But like a dummy, at least I was, I didn't try to get reservations and this kind of stuff. So we go out there, we had this big wedding reception, all right? Well, I never did like to leave a good party. So most times wedding couples leave the wedding reception early. Man, I don't want to miss out on my own wedding reception. I think I was the last one to leave. My wife was pulling on me. Let's go. So it was like 12 or 1 in the morning when we left Riverview in that area to go out there. So then I'm going to find the motel. And Coral Courts, well, I went up Chippewa or Watson Road, whatever, and I thought, this is crazy. I can't find this place. We ended up staying somewhere else. And then I realized later I didn't quite go far enough. So I almost spent my honeymoon night in the Coral Courts. Almost. So I got a little bit of that anyway. And then the next day we went, and then I get a ticket coming back. And then I find a snake in my bed when I first night I get home. All right? How much time do I have here, Tommy? Anyway, so on our way home, there was a snake house at Eldon, okay? We stopped and I'm going in to watch these snakes. They had this new boa constrictor in there, all right? And they had this rabbit in there for this boa to see if he eat that rabbit. And I think, well, I'd like to see him swallow that rabbit once. And so we're around there, my wife and I, and look at the snakes this and the other. And then finally I thought, now wait a minute here. And I asked this fellow, I said, by the way, how long has that rabbit been in there? And he said, oh, only 3 days now. And I said, whoa, you know, maybe another 3 days. So I said, okay, we'll leave. So we go home, and we get home in this new apartment, and lo and behold, right in the middle of the night, I dreamt that boa constrictor was in bed with us. And I'm grabbing him, see? And, you know, I always heard you grab a snake right by his neck, you know. Now, I didn't grab my wife by her neck, but I had this snake by his neck, and we're wrestling with a snake, and my wife is screaming. I say, that's all right, honey. I've got him, I've got him, I've got him. And then pretty soon I wake up, and I look down here. I had my knee on my wife's neck like this, and I've got her arm right here by the wrist, you see. That was that snake. And I said, where's the snake? She goes, there's no snake, there's no snake. Yeah. I said, oh, phew, okay. And I went back to sleep. Well, so I don't know, my wife didn't know what she got herself a hold of, okay, when I did that. Well, any questions about anything? Huh? Well, she's not here with me today, okay, but she survived it though. And we've still been together now for a little over 50 years, by the way. So, anyway, well, if there's no questions, I don't know. We used to run 66 in Illinois a lot too, because we go up to Springfield and race at the racetrack that used to be on the bypass there, which is now a Kmart. But anyway, that was a good racetrack for many, many years. So. And Old Walsh Stadium, if anybody knows where that was, on Oakland Avenue in St. Louis, that's where I started. And the Science Center, I believe, is right about the location where Walsh Stadium was. St. Charles Speedway, which is now a hole in the ground. People moved in around it and then complained about the noise. But anyway, and they finally sold it. Granite City Speedway, I helped break that one in. Now that one's still going, but that didn't start till the 60s. And then Alton Speedway, or at Godfrey, now that one started back in the late 40s. And it's still going too. I mean, those are some of the dirt tracks that I ran on. But
Norman? Yeah. How'd you get your Bardall jacket?
Oh, the Bardall jacket. Yeah, I usually, well, in the winter, you know, when it's cooler weather, I wear it. I have a Bardall jacket, an original from like 1958, all right? And that came at the racetrack. Bardall used to come out once in a while and advertise, and then they'd give away these real nice, this is still a nice jacket. This happened to be one my mother kept for me. I was single when I got it. And she kept it for me, and then I ended up taking it and so forth. But anyway, they would give out jackets to the top 6 qualifiers when they would show up, and I had a few of those jackets, and I've just got one left. But anyway, so it's a nice jacket. Yeah, I'm kind of proud of that jacket. So anything else?
How did you go from race car driver to iron worker to king of the road?
Well, you know, I also had Harleys. I had some Harleys too. And the Harleys and the race cars and the ironworkers were all about the same years, from about 1951 when I was in high school up through 64 when I went into the ministry, all right? And it was just a natural progression that the Lord worked on me to work that out, see? So, anything else? Nothing else? Okay.
Yeah, squeeze it and it hooks.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
I'd say you did pretty good, Norman.